Behind the golden gates of Windsor Castle, where centuries of royal traditions echo through marble corridors, a single security guard held the power to shake the very foundations of the British monarchy. For months, Thomas Mitchell had carried a burden that grew heavier with each passing day, a secret so explosive that it could rewrite the future of the crown itself. What started as a routine night shift would become the moment that changed Prince William's life forever. Hidden in the depths of palace security footage lay evidence that would force the future king to question everything he thought he knew about his stepmother, Queen Camilla. The truth, captured in grainy surveillance video, was far more shocking than any tabloid story ever published. This is the true story of loyalty, betrayal, and the moment when a working-class guard from Manchester became the unlikely guardian of royal justice. When duty collides with conscience, and when silence becomes more dangerous than speaking out, sometimes the most ordinary people must make the most extraordinary choices. The video exists. The proof is undeniable. And now, Prince William must decide what price he's willing to pay for the truth. Thomas Mitchell adjusted his security uniform for what felt like the 100th time that evening, his nervous fingers smoothing down the crisp fabric as he walked through the dimly lit corridors of Windsor Castle. The ancient walls seemed to whisper secrets in the darkness, their stone surfaces bearing witness to centuries of royal drama. At 42 years old, Thomas had worked castle security for 8 years, but tonight felt different. Tonight, everything would change. The grandfather clock in the East Wing chimed midnight as Thomas made his rounds, his footsteps echoing softly on the polished marble floors. He had always taken pride in his work, viewing himself as a guardian of history rather than just another security guard. Growing up in a working-class family in Manchester, he never imagined he would one day walk the same halls where kings and queens had lived and died. His radio crackled to life, breaking the peaceful silence. "Mitchell, this is Control. We need you to check the security footage from the Queen's private study." There was a motion sensor alert around 11:30 p.m. Thomas pressed the talk button on his radio. "Copy that, Control. Heading to the security office now." The security office was located in the castle's basement, a maze of modern technology hidden beneath centuries of history. Banks of monitors displayed feeds from hundreds of cameras placed throughout the castle grounds. Thomas settled into his chair and began reviewing the footage from camera 47, which monitored the entrance to Queen Camilla's private study. At first, everything appeared normal. The hallway remained empty, illuminated only by the soft glow of emergency lighting. Then, at 11:27 p.m., Queen Camilla appeared on screen, moving quickly down the corridor. She glanced around nervously before using her key to enter her study. What caught Thomas's attention was her body language. She moved like someone who didn't want to be seen. Thomas fast-forwarded the footage, watching as minutes ticked by. At 11:45 p.m., the study door opened again. But this time, Camilla wasn't alone. A man emerged first, someone Thomas didn't recognize. He was tall, well-dressed, with silver hair and an expensive suit. The man looked directly at the camera for a brief moment, and Thomas paused the video, studying his face. "Who are you?" Thomas whispered to himself, taking a screenshot of the stranger's face. Camilla appeared next, and what Thomas saw made his blood run cold. She was holding a thick envelope, the kind used for important documents. She handed it to the stranger, and even in the grainy security footage, Thomas could see her distressed expression. They spoke briefly, the man placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder before taking the envelope and disappearing down the corridor. Thomas rewound the footage, watching the scene again. Something about the exchange felt wrong, secretive, dangerous. In his 8 years of palace security, he had learned to recognize when members of the royal family were conducting official business versus personal affairs. This meeting had all the hallmarks of something that shouldn't be happening. His training kicked in. Thomas began searching through other camera feeds, tracking the mysterious man's movements through the castle. Camera 23 caught him entering through a side entrance at 11:15 p.m. Camera 31 showed him leaving through the same door at 11:52 p.m. No official record of his visit existed. Thomas checked the visitor logs twice. The next morning brought fresh concerns. During his shift briefing, Thomas learned that Prince William would be visiting Windsor Castle later that week for a private meeting with Queen Camilla. The timing seemed significant, coming so soon after the mysterious late-night encounter. Thomas spent his lunch break in the castle's staff canteen, pushing food around his plate while his mind raced. He thought about his duty as a security officer, his oath to protect the royal family, and his responsibility to report anything suspicious. But he also understood the delicate nature of royal politics and the potential consequences of making waves. His colleague, Sandra Walsh, noticed his distracted demeanor. Sandra had worked palace security for 12 years and was known for her discretion and loyalty to the crown. "You look like you've seen a ghost, Thomas," Sandra said, settling into the chair across from him. "Everything all right?" Thomas hesitated. Sandra was trustworthy, but some secrets felt too big to share. "Just tired from a night's shift," he replied, forcing a smile. Sandra studied his face carefully. "You know, my years here, I've learned that sometimes the most important part of our job isn't what we see, but what we do with what we see. The royal family trusts us to use good judgment." Her words stayed with Thomas as he returned to his duties. That afternoon, he found himself assigned to the Queen's wing, providing security while she attended to her daily schedule. As he stood guard outside her private office, he couldn't shake the image of her handing that envelope to the stranger. At 3 p.m., Queen Camilla emerged from her office, looking tired and stressed. She barely acknowledged Thomas's presence, which was unusual. Normally, she made an effort to greet the staff personally, understanding that small gestures went a long way in maintaining loyalty and respect. "Your Majesty," Thomas said with a respectful nod. Camilla paused, seeming to notice him for the first time. Her eyes searched his face, and, for a moment, Thomas wondered if she suspected he had seen something. "Thomas, isn't it?" she asked, her voice strained. "Yes, Your Majesty. You've been working here for some time now. You understand the importance of discretion, don't you?" The question felt loaded with meaning. "Of course, Your Majesty. Discretion and loyalty are the foundation of palace security." Camilla nodded slowly. "Yes, they are. Sometimes, Thomas, loyalty means understanding that not everything we see or hear needs to be shared. Some knowledge is burden enough for one person." With that cryptic statement, she continued down the hallway, leaving Thomas with more questions than answers. Her words felt like a warning, or perhaps a plea. Either way, they confirmed his suspicions that something significant was happening behind the scenes. That evening, Thomas returned to the security office, unable to resist another look at the footage. As he studied the video frame by frame, he noticed something he had missed before. When a stranger took the envelope from Camilla, he briefly opened it, revealing what appeared to be photographs inside. The resolution wasn't clear enough to see details, but the stranger's reaction was telling. He smiled with satisfaction. Thomas felt a chill run down his spine. Photographs exchanged in secret meetings rarely contained good news for the royal family. Throughout history, compromising images have been used to blackmail, embarrass, and manipulate members of the monarchy. The very thought that Queen Camilla might be involved in such a situation filled him with dread. His shift ended at 6 a.m., but Thomas couldn't bring himself to leave. He sat in his car in the castle parking lot, watching the sunrise paint the ancient walls golden. The weight of what he had discovered pressed down on him like a physical force. He thought about his own family, his wife Margaret and their teenage daughter Emma. They depended on his steady income and the respect that came with his position. Speaking out could cost him everything. But as he drove home through the English countryside, Thomas couldn't escape the feeling that remaining silent might cost the royal family even more. Prince William's upcoming visit suddenly took on new significance. If someone was manipulating Queen Camilla with compromising material, the future king had a right to know. The question that haunted Thomas as he finally fell asleep that morning was simple but profound. What would happen to the monarchy if the truth remained hidden? And what would happen to his own conscience if he chose to look the other way? His dreams were filled with images of ancient castles crumbling under the weight of buried secrets, and the sound of camera shutters clicking in the darkness. When he woke that afternoon, Thomas Mitchell knew his life would never be the same. The burden of truth is heavy, but sometimes it's the only weight worth carrying. The decision of whether to speak or remain silent would define not only his future, but potentially the future of the British crown itself. In the quiet moments before his next shift, Thomas understood that some secrets are too dangerous to keep, especially when they threaten the very foundation of everything he had sworn to protect. The evidence was clear, the implications staggering, and time was running out. Prince William's visit was only days away, and whatever was happening in the shadows of Windsor Castle was moving toward a conclusion that could change everything. Thomas Mitchell, a simple security guard from Manchester, found himself at the center of a royal crisis that would test his loyalty, his courage, and his understanding of what it truly means to serve the crown. 3 days had passed since Thomas first discovered the mysterious meeting, and the weight of his secret was becoming unbearable. Every interaction with Queen Camilla felt charged with unspoken tension. Every normal security protocol now seemed laden with potential significance. The castle's familiar routines continued around him, but Thomas felt like he was living in a different world, one where shadows held secrets and silence carried dangerous implications. On Thursday morning, Thomas received an unexpected assignment that would change everything. His supervisor, Chief Security Officer James Crawford, called him into the administrative office, a wood-paneled room filled with monitors and filing cabinets containing decades of palace security records. "Thomas, I need you to conduct a security audit of the castle's exterior camera systems," Crawford explained, sliding a clipboard across his desk. "Prince William's visit has been moved up to tomorrow afternoon, and we need to ensure all surveillance equipment is functioning properly." Thomas accepted the assignment, but his mind immediately jumped to the implications. Prince William was arriving earlier than expected, and Thomas would have legitimate access to review all security footage as part of his audit. It felt like fate was presenting him with an opportunity to gather more evidence. "Sir, should I review footage from the past week to check for any technical malfunctions?" Thomas asked, trying to keep his voice casual. Crawford nodded. "Good thinking. Go back 7 days and document any irregularities. The royal family's safety depends on our systems working perfectly." Thomas spent the morning reviewing camera feeds with new purpose. Starting with the exterior cameras, he tracked the mysterious visitor's arrival and departure more carefully. The man had arrived in a black sedan with tinted windows, parking in a service area typically used by maintenance contractors. What Thomas hadn't noticed before was that the car had no front license plate, and the rear plate was obscured by strategically placed mud. As he continued his investigation, Thomas discovered something that made his hands tremble as he operated the controls. The mysterious visitor had made not one, but 3 visits to Windsor Castle over the past month. Each visit followed the same pattern: late evening arrival, meeting with Queen Camilla in her private study, departure with an envelope or package of some kind. During the second visit, captured 2 weeks earlier, Thomas noticed that Camilla appeared even more distressed than during their most recent encounter. She paced the hallway for several minutes before the man arrived, and their conversation seemed more heated. At one point, she appeared to be pleading with him, her hands pressed together in a gesture of desperation. The first visit from 3 weeks ago told a different story. Camilla appeared calm, almost businesslike during that initial meeting. Whatever relationship existed between them, it had clearly deteriorated over time. The progression from calm cooperation to desperate pleading painted a troubling picture of escalating pressure or blackmail. Thomas printed screenshots from all 3 encounters, carefully documenting timestamps and camera angles. As he worked, he tried to piece together the timeline of events. What had started this relationship? What did the visitor want? And why was Prince William's visit being moved up? Around noon, Thomas decided to expand his investigation beyond the security footage. Using his access to palace records, he began searching for any official documentation of the visitor's presence. Personnel logs, visitor registrations, contractor schedules. Nothing matched the man's appearances at the castle. His search led him to the palace's communication records, which required special clearance, but were accessible to senior security staff conducting official audits. Thomas justified his access by noting that unexplained visitors represented a potential security breach that needed investigation. What he found in the phone logs made his blood run cold. On the same nights as each mysterious visit, Queen Camilla had received calls from the same unlisted number. The calls lasted between 15 and 20 minutes each time, always occurring approximately 1 hour before the visitor's arrival. Thomas cross-referenced the number with palace security databases, but found no matches. The calls were clearly coordinating the secret meetings, but the identity of the caller remained a mystery. However, the pattern suggested a level of sophistication that went beyond simple opportunism. Someone was orchestrating these encounters with careful planning and attention to detail. As his shift progressed, Thomas found himself observing Queen Camilla with new eyes during her public appearances. She attended a charity event in the castle's main hall that afternoon, greeting guests and delivering a speech about supporting military families. To the assembled crowd, she appeared perfectly composed and regal. But Thomas, now attuned to subtle signs of stress, noticed the slight tremor in her hands, the way her smile never quite reached her eyes, and how she frequently glanced toward the exits. During a brief break in the charity event, Thomas positioned himself near the corridor leading to Camilla's private office. He watched as she excused herself from the gathering, claiming she needed to retrieve some documents. Instead of going to her office, she made a phone call from a secluded alcove, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. Although Thomas couldn't hear the conversation, Camilla's body language spoke volumes. She frequently looked over her shoulder, ensuring she wasn't being observed. Her free hand gestured emphatically, and, at one point, she appeared to be arguing with whoever was on the other end of the line. The call lasted approximately 8 minutes before she composed herself and returned to the charity event. That evening, Thomas made a decision that would have far-reaching consequences. Instead of going home after his shift, he remained at the castle, hiding in an unused storage room near Queen Camilla's office. If the pattern held true, another late-night visit might be imminent. His instincts proved correct. At 10:45 p.m., Thomas heard footsteps in the corridor. Peering through a crack in the storage room door, he watched as Queen Camilla approached her office, looking around nervously before unlocking the door. She left it slightly ajar, which was unusual given her normal security-conscious behavior. 15 minutes later, the mysterious visitor appeared. This time, Thomas had a clear view as the man entered Camilla's office. What he witnessed through the partially open door would haunt him for the rest of his life. The man was not alone. He was accompanied by a woman Thomas didn't recognize, someone who moved with the confident stride of a professional. She carried a briefcase and what appeared to be photographic equipment. This wasn't just a simple exchange of documents. It was a full-scale operation. Thomas risked moving closer, positioning himself where he could observe through the office's interior windows. The scene unfolding before him was like something from a spy thriller. The woman had opened her briefcase, revealing sophisticated recording equipment and what looked like additional photographs. She was clearly documenting the meeting, creating evidence of Camilla's cooperation. The mysterious man Thomas had been tracking was apparently not working alone. This was an organized effort involving multiple people, professional equipment, and careful documentation. Queen Camilla wasn't just being blackmailed. She was being systematically compromised in a way that suggested long-term planning and significant resources. As Thomas watched, horrified, Camilla handed over another envelope, this one noticeably thicker than the previous ones he had seen on security footage. The woman photographed Camilla accepting payment in return, creating irrefutable evidence of some form of transaction. Whatever Queen Camilla was being forced to do, Her captors were ensuring they had documentation to prevent her from backing out or seeking help. The meeting lasted 45 minutes, longer than the previous encounters Thomas had observed. During this time, the woman took numerous photographs and made several recordings using handheld devices. At one point, she had Camilla pose for specific photographs, positioning her in ways that would clearly establish her identity and willing participation. As the operation concluded, Thomas realized the true scope of what he was witnessing. This wasn't simple blackmail. It was the systematic creation of evidence that could be used to destroy Queen Camilla's reputation and, by extension, damage the entire royal family. The careful documentation, the professional equipment, the multiple participants all pointed to an organization with serious resources and clear objectives. When the visitors finally left, Thomas waited an additional 30 minutes before emerging from his hiding place. He made his way back to the security office, his mind reeling from what he had witnessed. The evidence he had been collecting was no longer just about protecting Prince William from unpleasant surprises. It was about protecting the monarchy itself from what appeared to be a coordinated attack. Thomas spent the remaining hours of his shift documenting everything he had observed, creating a detailed timeline of events, and gathering all available photographic evidence from the security cameras. As dawn approached, he realized he was no longer just a security guard who had stumbled upon something suspicious. He was now the only person outside the conspiracy who understood the full scope of the threat facing the royal family. The decision of whether to speak up was no longer just about personal courage or professional duty. The future of the British monarchy might depend on what Thomas Mitchell chose to do with the knowledge he had gained. Prince William would arrive at Windsor Castle in less than 12 hours, walking unknowingly into a situation that could destroy everything he was destined to inherit. As Thomas finally drove home through the quiet English countryside, he understood that his next decision would define not only his own future, but potentially the future of the crown itself. The evidence was overwhelming, the threat was real, and time was running out. The simple security guard from Manchester had become the unlikely guardian of royal secrets that could change the course of history. The question that tormented him as he tried to sleep was no longer whether he should speak out, but whether he could find the courage to do what was right, regardless of the personal cost. Sometimes protecting the crown means risking everything, including your own life. Friday morning arrived with a significance that Thomas Mitchell had never experienced before. As he prepared for what could be his final shift at Windsor Castle, his hands shook while buttoning his security uniform. The evidence he had gathered over the past week was now safely stored in a secure location away from the castle, copies made and hidden where they couldn't be destroyed or stolen. Today, Prince William would arrive, and Thomas would have to make the most important decision of his life. The castle buzzed with heightened activity in preparation for the prince's visit. Additional security personnel had been brought in. Staff members polished already pristine surfaces, and every detail was scrutinized to ensure perfection. Thomas moved through these familiar routines like a man walking through a dream, his mind focused entirely on the moment when he would face Prince William with the truth. At 9 a.m., Thomas received an unexpected summons to Chief Crawford's office. His heart raced as he knocked on the door, wondering if somehow his investigation had been discovered. Crawford looked up from his paperwork with an expression Thomas couldn't read. "Thomas, I have an unusual assignment for you today," Crawford began, his voice carefully neutral. "Given your exemplary record and discretion, you've been selected to serve as Prince William's personal security escort during his visit. You'll be responsible for his protection during his private meeting with Queen Camilla and any movement within the castle grounds." Thomas felt as though the floor had dropped out from beneath him. Being assigned as Prince William's personal security was both an honor and a tremendous responsibility under normal circumstances. Today, it felt like fate was forcing his hand in the most dramatic way possible. "I'm honored by the assignment, sir," Thomas managed to say, his voice steady despite the chaos in his mind. "The prince will arrive at 2 p.m. He's requested complete privacy for his meeting with the Queen, which means you'll be positioned outside her private study. No one else will have access to that area during their discussion. Crawford paused, studying Thomas carefully. This level of trust isn't given lightly, Thomas. The royal family is counting on your professionalism and absolute discretion. As Thomas left Crawford's office, the weight of the situation pressed down on him with crushing force. He would be standing guard outside the very room where Queen Camilla had been meeting with her mysterious contacts. He would be responsible for protecting Prince William while knowing that the person the prince was meeting might be compromising the entire royal family. The morning passed in a blur of final preparations. Thomas reviewed security protocols, coordinated with other officers, and tried to maintain his composure while his mind raced through possible scenarios. How would he approach Prince William? What if the prince didn't believe him? What if speaking out resulted in Thomas being dismissed as a delusional employee seeking attention? At 1:30 p.m., Thomas positioned himself at the main entrance to welcome Prince William. The future king arrived precisely on schedule, stepping out of his official vehicle with the bearing and confidence that came from a lifetime of royal duty. At 38 years old, Prince William carried himself with quiet authority, but Thomas noticed something in his eyes that suggested recent stress or concern. "Your Royal Highness," Thomas said with a respectful bow. "I'm Thomas Mitchell, and I'll be serving as your security escort today." Prince William's handshake was firm, his gaze direct and assessing. "Thank you, Thomas. I understand you've been with Castle Security for several years." "8 years, Your Highness. I consider it an honor to serve the crown." As they walked through the castle's corridors toward Queen Camilla's wing, Prince William seemed preoccupied, occasionally glancing around as though expecting to encounter something unexpected. Thomas wondered if the prince had his own suspicions about recent events, or if his early arrival was motivated by concerns Thomas didn't fully understand. "Thomas," Prince William said as they approached the Queen's private study, "I want you to understand that the meeting I'm about to have is extremely sensitive. Under no circumstances should anyone be allowed to interrupt or overhear our conversation." "Of course, Your Highness. I'll ensure complete privacy." Prince William paused at the door to Camilla's study, his hand on the ornate brass handle. For a moment, he seemed to wrestle with some internal conflict before turning back to Thomas with a look of sudden decision. "Actually, Thomas, before I go in, I need to ask you something. In your time here, have you noticed anything unusual? Any behavior or incidents that seemed out of place?" The question hit Thomas like a physical blow. Prince William was actively seeking information, which suggested he already suspected something was wrong. This was Thomas's moment, the opportunity to speak truth to power that he had been both dreading and preparing for. "Your Highness," Thomas began, his voice barely above a whisper, "there are things you need to know before you speak with the Queen. Things that could affect the future of the crown itself." Prince William's expression sharpened immediately. "What kind of things?" Thomas glanced around the corridor, ensuring they were completely alone. "I have evidence of secret meetings, Your Highness. Queen Camilla has been meeting with unknown individuals on multiple occasions. These meetings appear to involve the exchange of documents and photographs, and they're being conducted without any official record or security clearance." The color drained from Prince William's face. "Are you certain?" "I have security footage from multiple encounters, sir. The most recent was last night. There are clear signs that the Queen is being manipulated or coerced by people with significant resources and professional capabilities." Thomas's voice grew stronger as he continued. "I believe she's being blackmailed, Your Highness." Prince William stood silent for a long moment, processing this information. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of royal authority mixed with personal anguish. "Show me." Thomas led Prince William to a nearby conference room equipped with security monitors. Using his access codes, he called up the footage he had so carefully documented. As the future king watched the grainy video of his stepmother's secret meetings, Thomas provided a detailed explanation of what he had observed and discovered. "The pattern escalates over time, Your Highness. Each meeting appears more distressing for the Queen, and The most recent encounter involved multiple individuals with professional recording equipment. They're not just taking what she gives them, they're creating evidence of her cooperation. Prince William watched the footage in stunned silence, his jaw tightening as the implications became clear. How long has this been going on? Based on the communication records I was able to access, at least a month, possibly longer. The coordination is sophisticated, suggesting this isn't opportunistic blackmail, but part of a larger plan. And you haven't reported this through official channels? Thomas met the prince's gaze directly. I wasn't sure who could be trusted, Your Highness. This level of access to the Queen's schedule and movement suggests inside knowledge. I decided the future king needed to know before anyone else. Prince William closed his eyes for a moment, clearly struggling with the magnitude of what he was learning. When he opened them again, Thomas saw a transformation from concerned stepson to future monarch preparing to protect his realm. Thomas, I need you to understand something. What you've done today, bringing this to me directly, may have saved the monarchy from a catastrophic scandal, but it also puts you in considerable danger. If these people discover you've exposed them, they won't hesitate to silence you. I understand the risks, Your Highness, but I swore an oath to protect the royal family, and sometimes protection means more than just standing guard. Prince William studied Thomas for a long moment before making his decision. I'm going to confront Camilla with this evidence. But first, I need you to secure all copies of this material. Can you do that without arousing suspicion? Already done, Your Highness. Multiple copies are stored in secure locations away from the castle. Good. Now, I want you to remain here while I speak with the Queen. Depending on how this conversation goes, we may need to involve MI5 and implement immediate security protocols. Are you prepared for that level of responsibility? Thomas straightened his shoulders. Yes, Your Highness. As Prince William prepared to confront Queen Camilla with the evidence of her secret meetings, Thomas positioned himself outside the study door. Through the heavy oak, he could hear the murmur of voices that gradually rose to urgent, emotional tones. The conversation lasted nearly 2 hours, punctuated by periods of silence that felt as heavy as the spoken words. When the door finally opened, both Prince William and Queen Camilla appeared emotionally drained. Camilla's eyes were red from crying, while William's face showed the stern resolve of someone who had made difficult but necessary decisions. Thomas, Prince William said quietly, please escort Queen Camilla to her private quarters and ensure she isn't disturbed. Then report back to me immediately. As Thomas walked Queen Camilla through the castle corridors, she spoke to him for the first time since their cryptic conversation days earlier. You did the right thing, Thomas, she said, her voice barely audible. William needed to know the truth, even though it's going to change everything for all of us. Your Majesty, will you be safe now? Camilla smiled sadly. Safer than I've been in weeks, thanks to your courage. The truth is a powerful weapon, even when it hurts. When Thomas returned to Prince William, the future king was on his phone, speaking in low, urgent tones to what sounded like security officials. After ending his call, William turned to Thomas with an expression of profound gratitude mixed with concern. Thomas, what happens next will test all of us. But because of your actions today, we have a chance to protect the monarchy and ensure justice is served. However, I need you to understand that your life has fundamentally changed. You can never be just a castle security guard again. You're now a witness in what may become the most significant royal security investigation in decades. As the implications of his decision settled over him, Thomas realized that speaking truth to power had indeed changed everything, not just for the royal family, but for his own future as well. The simple security guard from Manchester had become a key figure in protecting the British crown, regardless of the personal cost. The investigation that would follow would shake the foundations of the monarchy, but it would also demonstrate that sometimes the most important act of loyalty is having the courage to speak uncomfortable truths. Thomas Mitchell had proven that protecting the crown sometimes means risking everything, including your own security, to ensure that justice and truth prevail over corruption and silence. Within 6 hours of Thomas's revelation to Prince William, Windsor Castle had transformed into the center of the most sensitive security investigation in modern royal history. The ancient walls that had witnessed centuries of royal intrigue now harbored a crisis that threatened to shake the very foundations of the British monarchy. Thomas Mitchell, the working-class security guard from Manchester, found himself at the eye of a storm that would test everyone's loyalty, courage, and dedication to the crown. The arrival of MI5 agents at 8 p.m. marked the official beginning of what would be codenamed Operation Crown Shield. Thomas watched from his post as black vehicles with tinted windows pulled discreetly into the castle's service areas, their occupants moving with the purposeful efficiency of professionals accustomed to handling national security threats. The lead investigator, Director Sarah Blackwood, was a stern woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. Prince William had remained at the castle to personally oversee the investigation, understanding that the monarchy's reputation depended on how quickly and thoroughly this threat was addressed. Queen Camilla, meanwhile, had been placed under protective custody, not as a suspect, but as a victim whose cooperation would be essential to unraveling the conspiracy that had ensnared her. Thomas was summoned to a hastily established command center in the castle's East Wing, where Director Blackwood and her team had set up sophisticated monitoring equipment and secure communication systems. The room buzzed with quiet intensity as agents analyzed the evidence Thomas had provided and began tracing the digital and physical footprints of the mysterious visitors. "Mr. Mitchell," Director Blackwood began, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to dealing with matters of national importance. "Your actions over the past week may have prevented a catastrophic breach of royal security. However, we need your continued cooperation to understand the full scope of this operation." Thomas nodded, still adjusting to the surreal reality of his situation. "I'll help in any way I can, Director." "Good. We've analyzed the security footage you provided, and our initial assessment confirms your suspicions. The individuals targeting Queen Camilla are professionals with significant resources and advanced planning capabilities. The equipment they used, their operational security, and their systematic approach suggest this isn't the work of opportunistic criminals." Agent Michael Torres, a specialist in organized crime and international conspiracies, joined the conversation. "Mr. Mitchell, based on your observations, can you estimate how many different individuals were involved in these operations?" Thomas thought carefully before responding. "From what I witnessed directly, at least 3 people. The primary male contact, the woman with the recording equipment, and possibly a driver who remained with their vehicle. But the level of coordination suggests a larger organization." Director Blackwood exchanged meaningful glances with her team. "Our technical analysis of the photographs you captured has yielded disturbing results. The primary male contact has been identified as Viktor Petrov, a former KGB operative who now works as a freelance intelligence contractor. His presence suggests this operation may have international implications." The revelation sent a chill through the room. This wasn't just about compromising Queen Camilla. It was potentially about foreign interference with the British royal family. Thomas felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders as he realized the magnitude of what he had uncovered. Prince William entered the command center at that moment, his face grave with the burden of the developing crisis. "Director Blackwood, what's our current assessment?" "Your Royal Highness, we're dealing with a sophisticated intelligence operation designed to compromise Queen Camilla for purposes we're still determining. The involvement of Viktor Petrov suggests this may be part of a broader effort to destabilize British institutions." Prince William turned to Thomas with an expression of profound gratitude mixed with concern. "Thomas, I need you to understand that your discovery may have prevented a national security disaster, but it also means you're now a target. We're implementing immediate protection protocols for you and your family." The reality of his changed circumstances hit Thomas like a physical blow. "My family? Are Margaret and Emma in danger?" "We're taking precautions," Director Blackwood assured him. "Protection details are being deployed to your home as we speak. Your wife and daughter will be briefed on necessary security measures, but they'll be safe." Over the next several hours, Thomas provided detailed accounts of everything he had observed, while MI5 agents worked to piece together the conspiracy's timeline and objectives. The investigation revealed that Viktor Petrov's team had been conducting surveillance on multiple members of the royal family for months, looking for vulnerabilities they could exploit. Queen Camilla's weakness had been discovered through careful observation of her private routines and personal relationships. The conspirators had identified her regular visits to a private art gallery, where she met with personal friends away from official protocol. It was there that they had initially approached her with compromising photographs from her past, images that, while not illegal, would have caused significant embarrassment if made public. The initial blackmail was almost gentle, explained Agent Torres as he briefed the team on their findings. They asked for small favors: advance information about royal schedules, details about security protocols, insight into family discussions about political matters. Queen Camilla thought she could manage the situation by providing harmless information. Thomas listened with growing horror as the scope of the manipulation became clear. But it escalated dramatically, Director Blackwood confirmed. Each act of cooperation was documented and used to justify larger demands. By the time Queen Camilla realized she was trapped, they had enough evidence of her willing participation to destroy her reputation and damage the entire royal family. Prince William's jaw tightened as he processed this information. What were they ultimately planning? Based on communication intercepts we've obtained in the past few hours, the endgame appears to have been systematic destabilization of the monarchy's public support. They plan to release carefully edited documentation showing Queen Camilla apparently selling royal secrets, timed to coincide with your father's upcoming state visit to Eastern Europe. The implications were staggering. A scandal involving Queen Camilla selling state secrets would not only destroy her personally, but would cast doubt on the entire royal family's trustworthiness and loyalty to Britain. The timing with King Charles's diplomatic mission would have maximized the international embarrassment and potentially damaged crucial foreign relationships. As the investigation progressed through the night, Thomas found himself working closely with Agent Torres to identify other potential security vulnerabilities at Windsor Castle. His 8 years of experience and his recent intensive observation of suspicious activities made him uniquely valuable to the MI5 team. "Thomas," Agent Torres said as they reviewed castle security procedures, "your attention to detail and willingness to act on suspicious observations likely saved the monarchy. Most security personnel would have filed a report and waited for instructions. Your initiative to investigate further was crucial." "I just couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong," Thomas replied. "When you've worked here as long as I have, you develop an instinct for when things aren't right." Around 3 a.m., a breakthrough came when MI5's technical team successfully traced the encrypted communication devices the conspirators had been using. The signals led to a safe house in London, where a coordinated raid captured 2 additional members of Viktor Petrov's network, along with extensive documentation of their operation. Director Blackwood emerged from a secure communication session with news that would reshape the entire investigation. "We found evidence of at least 4 other ongoing operations targeting different European royal families. This appears to be part of a coordinated international effort to destabilize monarchy-based governments." Prince William absorbed this information with the composure expected of a future king, but Thomas could see the strain in his eyes. "Director, what's our next step? We need to turn this situation to our advantage. Queen Camilla has agreed to continue contact with her handlers while we monitor and record everything. We're going to let them think their operation is succeeding while we gather evidence against the entire network." The plan was audacious. Use Queen Camilla as bait to expose the full scope of the international conspiracy. It would require tremendous courage from her and careful coordination from everyone involved, but it offered the best chance to not only protect the British royal family, but also warn allied nations about similar threats. Thomas's role in this expanded operation would be crucial. His position as castle security gave him legitimate reasons to be present during planned meetings, and his proven ability to observe and document suspicious activities made him an ideal covert operative. However, the risks would be enormous. If the conspirators discovered his involvement, the consequences could be fatal. As dawn approached, Thomas stood at a window overlooking the castle grounds, watching the sunrise paint the ancient walls with golden light. The same walls that had witnessed the rise and fall of kings now sheltered an operation that would determine whether the monarchy could survive in the modern world of international espionage and information warfare. Prince William joined him at the window, both men contemplating the magnitude of what lay ahead. "Thomas, I want you to understand that what we're asking of you goes far beyond your duty as a security guard. You have every right to step back and let others handle this from here." Thomas considered the offer for a moment before shaking his head. "Your Royal Highness, I've come this far because I believe in protecting the crown. I can't stop now when the threat is greater than ever. The monarchy has survived for over 1,000 years. It's not going to fall on my watch." The determination in Thomas's voice reflected a transformation that had occurred over the past week. The quiet security guard from Manchester had become a guardian of royal secrets, a protector of constitutional stability, and a key player in an international intelligence operation. The weight of responsibility was enormous, but so was his commitment to seeing justice done. As the sun climbed higher over Windsor Castle, Thomas Mitchell prepared for the most dangerous phase of his unexpected journey into the world of royal intrigue. The evidence was gathered, the conspiracy was understood, and now came the most challenging part: using that knowledge to protect not just Queen Camilla, but the entire institution of monarchy itself. The battle for the crown's future was about to begin in earnest, and Thomas would be on the front lines of a fight that would determine the monarchy's survival in the 21st century. 2 weeks after the initial discovery, Operation Crown Shield reached its dramatic conclusion in a coordinated international effort that would be remembered as one of the most successful counterintelligence operations in modern British history. Thomas Mitchell stood in the same corridor where he had first witnessed Queen Camilla's secret meetings, but now he wore a concealed recording device and earpiece, serving as the eyes and ears of MI5's most critical operation. The trap had been carefully set over the preceding days. Queen Camilla, showing remarkable courage in the face of overwhelming pressure, had agreed to participate in what the conspirators believed would be their final, most damaging meeting. Viktor Petrov's team had demanded access to classified documents from King Charles's upcoming diplomatic meetings, information that would have compromised British foreign policy and damaged relationships with crucial allies. Director Blackwood's voice crackled softly in Thomas's earpiece as he maintained his position near Queen Camilla's study. "Crown Shield Base to Guardian. All units are in position. Operation commences in T-5 minutes." Thomas had been given the codename Guardian in recognition of his role in protecting the monarchy. Around the castle, dozens of MI5 agents, armed police, and specialist surveillance teams waited for the signal to move. Similar operations were being conducted simultaneously in 3 other countries, targeting the broader network that had been threatening European royal families. At exactly 11:30 p.m., Viktor Petrov arrived at Windsor Castle for what he believed would be his greatest victory against the British crown. The same service entrance he had used for weeks now served as the entry point to his capture. Thomas watched through night vision equipment as the Russian operative approached Queen Camilla's study with the confidence of someone who believed he held all the cards. What Petrov didn't know was that every step he had taken since leaving his London safe house had been monitored, recorded, and documented. The classified documents Queen Camilla would provide tonight were carefully crafted fakes designed to incriminate him while protecting genuine state secrets. Most importantly, tonight's meeting would be recorded in high definition, providing irrefutable evidence of espionage activities against the British crown. "Guardian, this is base. Subject has entered the target zone. Maintain your position and prepare for possible emergency intervention. Director Blackwood's voice instructed through Thomas's earpiece. Thomas positioned himself where he could observe the meeting while remaining concealed. Through the study's partially open door, he watched as Queen Camilla handed Viktor Petrov an envelope containing the false documents. The Russian's satisfaction was evident as he examined the papers, believing he had finally obtained intelligence that would seriously damage British interests. "Excellent work, Your Majesty," Petrov said in accented English, his voice carrying the smugness of someone who believed he had won a great victory. "My employers will be very pleased with this information. I think we can consider our business relationship concluded on a high note." Queen Camilla's response was perfectly calculated to elicit a full confession. "I want your assurance that this is the end. No more meetings, no more demands, no more photographs." Petrov chuckled coldly. "Your Majesty, you've been very cooperative but naive. The photographs and recordings we've collected over these weeks are too valuable to simply destroy. They'll serve as insurance for future cooperation, should we need your services again." Future cooperation? Queen Camilla's voice carried just the right note of desperation to encourage Petrov to reveal more details. "The British monarchy is just one target, Your Majesty. We have similar operations underway across Europe. Weakening traditional institutions creates opportunities for more flexible arrangements with emerging powers. Your cooperation has been a model for what we're achieving elsewhere." Thomas felt a surge of anger at the casual way Petrov discussed destabilizing governments and manipulating vulnerable people. The Russian's arrogance would be his downfall, as every word was being recorded for use in international courts. "Base to Guardian," Director Blackwood's voice whispered in Thomas's earpiece. "Subject has provided sufficient incriminating statements. Prepare for immediate tactical deployment." What happened next unfolded with military precision. Thomas's earpiece crackled with coordinated commands as MI5 agents moved into position throughout the castle. Armed response units secured all exits while surveillance teams ensured that every member of Petrov's support network was accounted for. "Execute, execute, execute," came the final command. The study door burst open as specially trained agents flooded the room. Thomas watched as Viktor Petrov's expression transformed from smug satisfaction to shock and desperate calculation. The Russian immediately reached for what appeared to be a concealed weapon, but he was overwhelmed before he could draw it. "Viktor Petrov, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit espionage against the British Crown, attempting to blackmail a member of the royal family, and violations of the Official Secrets Act," announced Agent Torres as he secured the stunned operative. Queen Camilla, who had shown remarkable composure throughout the undercover operation, finally allowed her relief to show. Thomas watched as Prince William emerged from a concealed position where he had been observing the entire confrontation, moving immediately to comfort his stepmother. "It's over, Camilla," Prince William said gently. "You're safe now, and they can never threaten you again." The simultaneous raids across London netted 6 additional conspirators, along with extensive evidence of the international network's operations. Computer servers contained detailed plans for destabilizing monarchies in 5 countries, with the British royal family being just one target in a broader campaign of institutional warfare. In the days that followed, Thomas found himself at the center of debriefings, commendations, and discussions about the future of royal security. The successful conclusion of Operation Crown Shield had not only protected the monarchy, but had also exposed an international conspiracy that posed threats to democratic institutions across Europe. Director Blackwood summoned Thomas to a private meeting 3 days after Petrov's arrest. "Thomas, your actions have earned you recognition at the highest levels of government. The Prime Minister herself has requested that you be considered for the George Medal for services to national security." Thomas felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of the recognition. "Director, I was just doing my job." "You did far more than your job, Thomas. You recognized a threat, investigated it despite personal risk, and had the courage to speak truth to power when it mattered most. Those qualities are rare and precious. The offer that came next would change Thomas's life in ways he never could have imagined. Thomas, MI5 would like to offer you a position as a specialist consultant on royal security matters. Your unique combination of palace experience and proven investigative instincts makes you invaluable for preventing future threats. The opportunity represented everything Thomas had never dared to dream about. Meaningful work that utilized his skills, financial security for his family, and the chance to continue serving the crown in a capacity that matched his demonstrated abilities. After discussing the offer with his wife Margaret and daughter Emma, Thomas accepted the position that would transform him from castle security guard to national security specialist. 6 months later, Thomas stood in the same corridor at Windsor Castle where his extraordinary journey had begun, but now he wore the discreet insignia of an MI5 consultant rather than a standard security uniform. The investigation he had initiated had resulted in the conviction of 12 conspirators across 4 countries, the dismantling of an international network targeting European monarchies, and the implementation of enhanced security protocols that would protect royal families for generations to come. Queen Camilla approached him during one of his regular security assessments. Her demeanor completely transformed from the frightened woman he had observed in those first troubling encounters. "Thomas, I owe you an apology," she said quietly. "When I first made those cryptic comments about discretion and loyalty, I was trying to warn you away from something that I thought was beyond help. I never imagined you would have the courage to see it through to justice. Your Majesty, you were protecting your family the only way you knew how. No apology is necessary. What you did required a special kind of bravery, Thomas. It's one thing to face a known enemy with weapons or threats. It's quite another to stand alone with dangerous knowledge and decide to risk everything for what's right." Prince William, now benefiting from the enhanced security protocols Thomas had helped develop, made a point of personally thanking him during each castle visit. "Thomas, historians will remember Operation Crown Shield as a turning point in protecting constitutional monarchy in the modern world. Your willingness to act on suspicious observations and speak uncomfortable truths saved more than just our family. You helped preserve institutions that represent stability and continuity for millions of people." The recognition was gratifying, but for Thomas, the greatest satisfaction came from knowing that his actions had protected something larger than himself. The monarchy he had sworn to serve continued to stand strong, protected by enhanced security measures and served by professionals who understood that true loyalty sometimes requires tremendous personal courage. His daughter Emma, now proud to tell her friends that her father was a special kind of police officer who protects important people, had asked him what he had learned from his extraordinary experience. "I learned that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they choose to act on their principles rather than their fears," Thomas had told her. "I learned that speaking truth to power isn't just a phrase. It's sometimes the most important thing you can do to protect what matters most." As Thomas continued his work protecting the royal family and training the next generation of security specialists, he often reflected on the night when he first witnessed Queen Camilla's secret meeting. A simple security guard's decision to investigate rather than ignore suspicious activity had prevented a national crisis and exposed an international conspiracy. The lesson was clear. In a world where threats to democratic institutions come from sophisticated, well-funded adversaries, the first line of defense often consists of ordinary people who choose to act when they see something wrong. Thomas Mitchell's journey from castle security guard to national security specialist proved that protecting the crown and the principles it represents sometimes depends on the courage of individuals willing to risk everything for truth and justice. The monarchy endured stronger and more secure than before, protected by enhanced protocols and served by professionals who understood that true service to the crown means never allowing loyalty to be confused with silence in the face of wrongdoing. Thomas's story became a model for security professionals throughout the government, demonstrating that vigilance, courage, and moral clarity remained the most powerful tools for protecting democratic institutions in an increasingly complex world. Years later, when Thomas looked back on the events that transformed his life, he understood that he had been part of something much larger than a simple security investigation. He had participated in the defense of principles and institutions that represented centuries of constitutional development and democratic progress. The Royal Guard from Manchester had indeed kept faith with his oath to protect the crown, not through silence and compliance, but through courage, truth, and an unwavering commitment to justice.